We're doing something a little bit different today. My name is Lorraine, and this is going to be a build of Lizzie Borden's house, which was 92 2nd Street in Fall River, Massachusetts. I also have written out a little thing here about the Borden murders that I will be reading, so this will be a little bit of a true crime. The picture in the upper right hand corner is of the actual house where the Borden murders occurred. So I'll go ahead and just get started with that story, and then we'll talk some more about the build. On the morning of August 4th, 1892 in Fall River, Massachusetts, a pair of murders would occur that would rock the sleepy little town to its foundations. Those murders were the infamous Borden murders. The victims, Andrew Borden and his second wife, Abby. The prime suspect, his daughter, Lizzie Borden. Everything seemed normal on the night of August 3rd when John Morse arrived at the Borden home. He spent the night in the guest room, and everyone appeared cheerfully at breakfast the following morning. Everyone included Andrew and Abby Borden, Andrew's daughter Lizzie, the aforementioned John Morse, and the Bordens' live-in maid Bridget Sullivan. At 8:48 a.m., John Morse left the house at 92 2nd Street to buy a pair of oxen and visit some relatives. Andrew left for his morning walk sometime after 9 a.m. Following breakfast, Abby went upstairs to tidy up the guest room. This would have been sometime between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. This would prove to be the last thing Abby would ever do, as she was killed in the bedroom, suffering more than 17 direct hits from an axe. Upon returning from his walk at 10:30, Andrew could not get the front door open. Bridget, the maid, went to open it for him, but it was jammed. They finally got the door open and Andrew entered the house. This is significant because it would have normally been very easy for Andrew to enter the home with very little warning and climb the stairs to the second floor. On the second floor, his wife Abby was already laying dead. Andrew spoke to Lizzie after entering the house, asking her where Abby was. Lizzie told him that a messenger had delivered a message, summoning Abby to the bedside of a sick friend. Following this conversation, Andrew laid on the sofa in the sitting room with the intention of taking a nap. At about 11:10, Bridget the maid heard Lizzie yelling from downstairs. Upon investigation, she discovered that Lizzie had found Andrew's murdered body in the sitting room, still lying upon the sofa he had laid down upon only 40 minutes earlier. He had suffered 11 strikes from an axe, and it was believed that he had died at about 11 a.m. During the investigation that followed, Lizzie gave strange and contradictory answers. This could, however, be attributed to the fact that she had been given morphine in order to calm her nerves following the murders. The police searched her room, but not thoroughly. They didn't do a proper search because Lizzie reportedly didn't feel well. They didn't check her clothing or person for blood stains either. In the basement, 2 hatchets, 2 axes, and a hatchet head with a broken handle was found. The broken hatchet appeared to have been freshly broken, and there was ash and dust on the head that made the police suspect that it had been deliberately applied to make the hatchet appear as if it had been in the basement for a long time. On the evening of August 6th, Lizzie was informed by a police officer and the mayor of Fall River that she was a suspect in her parents' murder. On the morning of the 7th, Lizzie was seen tearing up a dress and putting it into the kitchen fire. She explained to the onlooker that it was covered in paint, and that was why she was burning it. I personally find this odd because in 1892, there would have been a rag and bone man who would have paid for this dress, and it would not have been habitual for anyone to burn soiled clothing, even badly stained clothing, because there was a huge market in the Victorian era for secondhand clothes. Following an inquest in which Lizzie was found to be suspicious, she was jailed to await her trial. Her trial began in New Bedford, Massachusetts on the 5th of June, 1893, nearly a year after the murders. I think it's interesting to note that 5 days prior to the start of Lizzie's trial, another axe murder occurred in Fall River. The victim was one Bertha Manchester, who was found murdered in her kitchen. The jurors did not make note of this happening, but it is not certain whether this influenced them in their decision of Lizzie's guilt. During the trial, there was a dispute as to whether or not Lizzie was even in the home during the time of the murders. 2 different men confirmed seeing her leaving the barn at 11:03 a.m. At 11:10, she had called for Bridget the maid. When she called for her, however, she ordered her not to enter the room, but to go for the doctor. Could that have been because she was covered in blood and needed time to clean up? One thing that I would say is to keep in mind, thinking about this, that there are no showers, no washing machines, and lots of complicated underwear in 1892. Also, there's tons of buttons on women's clothing because they were super popular at the time, and Lizzie was said to be very fashionable. That's a lot to deal with in just a few minutes before Bridget could get back with the doctor. On June 20th, 1893, Lizzie Borden was acquitted of all charges by the jury after just an hour and a half of deliberation. Reporters claimed that on her exit of the courthouse, Borden said she was the happiest woman in the world. Following the murders and her subsequent acquittal, Lizzie and her sister Emma, who had been away visiting friends during the time of the murders, were the sole inheritors of their father's immense fortune. They continued to live in Fall River, although Lizzie had a new house, Maplecroft, built for the 2 of them. They moved into Maplecroft and lived there together until 1905, when Emma moved out after an argument between the 2 sisters. Lizzie Borden died on June 1st, 1927, in Fall River, succumbing to pneumonia after a year of illness that followed a surgery to remove her gallbladder. She was 66 years old. So here's my question. Do you guys think she did it? Or do you think that it was somebody else and she was framed for it? Go ahead and pause the video and let me know in the comments below what you think. So here we're getting into the build here. It looks like I'm doing the floor plan. I mentioned in my previous video the Victorian floors and walls situation where everything is just kind of crazy. So yeah, we've got yellow wallpaper and blue floors. Yellow and blue go together pretty well. I will put up a picture in here so you can see an example of what I mean by how crazy the conflicts were. One of the things that I found so interesting about this house, not only in its Victorianness, but that also kind of made me want to do this house for this build and do this story, is that this house has no hallways. So all of the rooms on the upper floor, you have to walk through to get to the next one, which I find so strange. I can't even imagine what that would be like. One of the things that I find really interesting about that is that wasn't very common in the Victorian era. That was more something kind of left over from previous eras. Like the closest I can think of is the Tudor era. So I just thought that was interesting and kind of weird, and like, why would you want to live in a house where you have to walk through everybody's room to get where you're going? I will say this though, there's a staircase on either end of the house. So one of the things that's kind of interesting too is that the daughters cannot get into the parent side of the house without going up their staircase, and the parents can't get up the daughter side of the house or get to the daughter side of the house without going up their staircase. It's just very, very odd. Another thing that I thought was interesting about this house is that it had an indoor privy, but it's in the basement. So I put up the bathroom in the basement. It's just weird. It's weird to think about what that would be like in you're in your room, in your bed, in the upstairs, and you have to go to the bathroom, so you have to go down 2 flights of stairs to get to the restroom. Like that would be horrifyingly bad. Especially like in the middle of the night with the candle and you're like trying to navigate down to the little bathroom in the basement with the coal chute and everything down there. I don't know. I wouldn't want to do that. Anyway, this is the kitchen. So let's actually talk about the build a little bit. I wanted to make this feel as Victorian as I possibly could. This murder took place in the late Victorian era, because the Victorian era I think ended in 1901, so this was 1892. So I wanted it to have that feel, but not too intensely, I guess. I don't know. I really like that wood color. I would love to have that wood color in my house. I like how that fit in that little spot there above the curtain. I thought that looked nice. I like it. I love this that pattern on that wallpaper too. I think it's so pretty. That's one of my favorite shelves, the one I just put up with the kettle. It looks a little bit modern, but I figured we could just pretend that it's vintage. So here's some knives, because you gotta have knives in a murder house. There's a coffee pot. Another little teapot. This room on the, let's see, where am I going? It looks like I'm working on the bottom floor. So this room, this front one I'm working in now, that's the parlor. That's the entry area where I'm changing the rug with the stairs. So that's where Andrew would have come in when he was done with his morning walk. They said it was odd because if you went halfway up the stairs, you could actually see Abby in the guest room from the stairs, which is so crazy to me. So that was why I put in the part about it being important that Andrew not be able to just walk in, because if he just walked in and went up the stairs, he would have seen her. So this is the dining room, and then that's the other wall of the dining room, putting in some paintings in there. And there is Mrs. Borden chilling at the dining table. We got a rocking chair because we have to have a rocking chair. It's 1892. I like this wallpaper too. Like I had a lot of fun in this build with using the different colors and like crazy wallpapers, because I never used these ones with like the prints. So it was really, really fun to do that. So here I'm just putting some paintings up in the parlor. There's an organ in there too. In the actual house, I think they had a piano in the parlor, but pianos in The Sims are freaking huge. So I just put an organ in there. One thing that was really cool too is that these little couches, or that little couch there, they had one almost exactly like that in the actual house, which I thought was pretty neat. So I decided to change up the kitchen a little bit. And I put stairs down to the basement where the bathroom is in the kitchen because I didn't want you to have to go outside to go to the bathroom, because it would have been such a big deal to have an indoor bathroom in the first place. This is interesting too. Like, so here's a little attic bedroom. This is Bridget, the maid's room. And so her room was all the way at the top of the house. She was actually in her room at the time of the murder, and heard Lizzie yelling from downstairs and had to go all the way down. Like, that would suck. Like, not only did she not feel well at the time, but to like hear your boss calling, you're like, are you kidding? You really want me to walk down 2 flights of stairs? I think I ended up putting a ladder for her because there wasn't room. It was one of those things, you know, where you have like restrictions in The Sims, so it's hard to mimic a floor plan exactly. I tried to do the best that I could, but that bit was kind of hard. So this is the guest room. This is where Abby Borden died, and that's where John Morse would have stayed the night. So there's some curtains for the guest room. Mrs. Borden hanging out in there. I kept changing the bed in that room because in 1892 they didn't have standard bed sizes like you do in The Sims, and I couldn't get it to like look and fit right. So I ended up going with a twin bed because it was like some kind of weird, like fullish, queenish, twinish conglomeration. So I went with the twin bed just to make everything fit, especially since it was just like one person sleeping in there. This is Emma's room, and I just imagine Emma to be this kind of chill person because she had like one of the smallest rooms in the house, which is another like weird thing. This is Lizzie's room. She had this like grand bed and this big old room, and her bed was at this angle, which I find interesting too. Like, it says something about her personality that she's got, you know, like the biggest room, and then her sister's got the little one. So I put like fancy stuff in here because she also got in trouble a few times for stealing. So I wanted it to kind of reflect that she has this like taste for fine things, because that's one of the things that they say may have been a motive for the murders if she committed them, was that her father was said to be really miserly, and that she wanted to have like those nicer things and he wouldn't let her have them. That's another reason why I thought it was so odd that she would burn a dress, because it wouldn't be second nature to someone who grew up with a miserly father to burn a dress in that time, when you can remake it into something else, use it as rags for the house, sell it to the rag and bone man, sell it to the, you know, the secondhand trade for clothes. There was just so much you could do even with a ruined dress. So this is Emma's room, and let's see, this is the Borden's bedroom. So that's Andrew and Abby's bedroom. We're almost to the end here. We got a minute here. This is Abby's dressing room. I thought that was so interesting that Abby Borden had a literal dressing room. Like, what would that be like to have a room like that? I don't know. I tried to make this feel cozy, but minimalistic, which is kind of hard to do. So this is the basement, and I tried to put like a little laundry area here because they did have a laundry area in the basement. And here's the bathroom, the quick little bathroom I put in. I used a lot of vampire stuff. So we're just about at the end here. Okay. I'm glad you guys decided to click on my video today. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more fun content just like this. Be sure to hit that notification bell so that you'll know when my next video comes out, and I will see you next time. Bye.